was the best one. That's the best throwback I've ever heard right there. I don't even think that I knew what a condom was back when TLC came on. I definitely didn't need one. That's for sure. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. We're talking about getting yourself into higher visibility in the media, raising your media platform. Man, I'm so glad today that we have Miss Nikki Woods on. She has a 20-year experience. Her resume has just been phenomenal. She shaped media. She shaped news. She shaped our thinking within the community for over 20 years, working with Tom Joyner and some of the other top names out there in the world. And she's here with us today. Nikki, hey, let's talk a little bit about it. You still with us?
I am still with you.
All right, very good. Nikki, talk to us a little bit about what we can do. I see you on Facebook Live all the time, and you have one of the best consistent live streams I see, as evidenced by the fact that you have 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people watching, sharing, and liking like pretty much every day, which is completely awesome. Now, talk to us a little bit about what we can do if we feel like we have a story and we want to share that story with the world. Do we just start calling up the local producers? How do we know which stories are actually worth it, which ones aren't? I've got a story. Help me go to the next level.
No, absolutely. So I think the first place to start is recognizing the value of what you have to offer. And the value, and I hope that everybody gets this, when I say it, and it's one of the things I talk about consistently, but the value is not that you wrote a book. The value is not that you have a business. The value is not that you have a service. The value is in the transformation that whatever it is that you have will provide for my listening audience. So as a producer, I could care less that you wrote a book on one level. What a book says is that you are an expert. I think it provides that credibility, but it's the value within the book that I'm interested in for my audience. So for people that get on and all they're focused on is selling something, that really never works well for an interview when it comes to converting to customers. What you need to do is provide just insane value in that interview, get them into some kind of system that we talked about earlier, nurture them, and then sell them something. And so too many people make the mistake of going in for the sell instead of going in for the relationship. So that is the biggest piece that I think that people get wrong. Once you've got that and you can show that to a producer, more than likely you'll get a yes if you present it the right way. And I would start making a list. I would start looking at local media and really start developing relationships, because I really think that if you are serious about media, you need to start developing the relationships before you actually plan on using them, and just present yourself as a resource for whatever your expertise is. If you're a financial expert, if you're a relationship expert, just provide yourself as a resource and then start looking for those opportunities to provide that value. So, and finances and relationships are just easy to use as an example, but if you're a relationship coach and you haven't pitched yourself for Valentine's Day, then you're asleep. If you are a financial expert and you aren't ready for, tax day, income tax day, or you're not ready, for some of those big financial milestones, and then you're not doing your job. So you really have to look for the opportunity to provide the value that you've already determined you have, so that you can start to build the relationships with the people who are eventually going to become your customers.
So you made a great point. You said, hey, you're not doing your job. But the simple question is, how early is too early? How late is too late? I know that some topics are evergreen, so you can plan. There will always be a Valentine's Day. There will always be a Christmas. But then there are other topics that arise in the news in which you can pitch yourself to be on the news, to be the expert du jour, because they need somebody who can speak to it. So for the evergreen topics, what's the normal time frame in which you should start to court the producers? And what's the best way to do it?
Well, you should start to court the producers before you actually want to pitch the story. If you have not done that, then you just need to look at the different media outlets. So for print, usually you have a lot longer lead time. So magazines, they're looking at content 6 months. before it's going to be published. Newspapers, a little bit shorter, between 3 and 4 months. But radio, we could be booking 2 days ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you really, I mean, I would, if you know that you're going to pitch yourself, I would start to build that relationship early, and then start to give them a heads up and say, you know what, I really want to talk about, 10 ways to find love after divorce when it comes to, Valentine's Day, or, 3 things that somebody can do if they're single on Valentine's Day so they don't feel, ostracized or whatever it is. So all of those things, like with Black Friday coming up, as a financial expert, you can talk about like how to beat Black Friday, or how to not go into debt shopping on Black Friday, or whatever the topic is, but start thinking about those things. And then, oh, by the way, I have a book out if you want more tips on how to stay out of debt, whatever it is. But that's not the focus of the interview. The focus of the interview is value. And so those are for evergreen stories. Like I said, there's things that come up every year at the same time. There's certain months, like Breast Cancer Awareness Month, all these months, all these days that you can really focus on. But you're right. The great thing about news is that they're always looking for an expert to explain it, no matter what it may be. And so if something happens in the news and you as an expert can speak to it, like say, for instance, Tamar Braxton announced that she was getting divorced, and Jill Scott just announced that she was getting divorced. 10 times out of 10, you're not going to get Jill Scott on to talk about this divorce. So you as a relationship coach can get on and talk about, ways to survive, going through a divorce, or, how as a woman you should protect yourself, emotionally or financially going through a divorce, and look for those opportunities to, be that resource that I talked about a little bit earlier. And then eventually, if you're consistent and you're reliable and you deliver a good interview, eventually I'll call you, like if something happens. I'll be like, hey, Tamar just announced she's getting divorced. Can you come on and kind of give us some, insight onto how difficult it is, for celebrity marriages or something like that. So that's...
Nikki, if there was only one person pitching and that person was you, then you could have your pick of the media outlets. But there's a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time. So how do you separate yourself? If you are the type of person who, you may have a blog, you may have some cool traction on social media, or you may not even have a whole lot, but you do know that you have some good advice, how can you separate yourself from the other people who are out there who are also the quote unquote gurus, who are also in the media already before you, and you are a virtual unknown?
Well, you need to be clear on your value, because a lot of times people will be an expert, but what they're pitching is not the value. They're pitching a sale. And like I said, the media is not there for the sale. So that is like the biggest mistake people, I don't care how good you are. If you come on and do an interview and all you talk about is buy my book, Tom will look at me over his glasses and tell me not to book them again. So it really, you do yourself a disservice. And then once that happens, then, word kind of spreads, because a lot of us producers, we know each other. And sometimes we'll call and be like, oh, I saw that, Nikki was on your show. How did she do? And I'm going to tell them, the truth. And so you really have to be clear on your value. You have to build the relationship. As you know, connection is everything, right? And so for me as a producer, I would get upwards of 300 pitches a day.
Wow.
And so if I didn't recognize your name, then, you probably wouldn't get open right away.
Okay, great. Okay, let's stop right here then. Great. So you have 300 pitches per day. There's no way that you could possibly read all of those and get your job done and, sleep, right? So You're not reading through all of these pitches. No. So you said, I want to work first with the people who I know, but if I am not in this world, how do I even get my foot in the door to get to know you and the Nikki Woods of the door? Do I need to start retweeting you on Twitter? Do I need to follow you?
That's all about connection. That's all about building relationships, because once I start recognizing your name, then your email is going to get open. And then in the email subject, you have to expose the value. So tell me that you're going to help my listeners get out of debt in 2018. Tell me that you're going to help them be a millionaire in 3 months in 2018. Be able to back it up, but, don't say I have a book coming out in January. I mean, I'm telling you, people are so focused on that one-off sale that they totally take themselves out of the running to develop the relationship that you want to have with the listeners that you are about that are about to hear your interview. So it sounds like it's simple, but it really is a big deal because so many people do it wrong. And so those are the things. You have to start establishing those relationships. And I say it's easier locally because you can actually go to events and start meeting producers and start meeting editors and start meeting hosts. But also, as you said, on social media, follow them, like their Facebook page, share their content. Media is entertainment. And I tell people all the time, unfortunately, to be in this business, you have to have a little bit of an ego.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sharing my stuff, I'm starting to get a little puffed up,
mm-hmm.
and I'm recognizing your name. And then, when you email me or, say something like, I saw the story you posted on Facebook, I'm going to open it because
mm-hmm.
now I feel really good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think of ways to distinguish yourself. I'm pretty sure you know Lucinda Cross, but Lucinda was a guest on Tom, and that was my first introduction to her. And I didn't even book her. She was on in Jackie Reed's segment, and, I helped coordinate it, but I really didn't have that much to do with this interview, and she was so great about like the follow-up and recognizing, knowing Jackie is good, but knowing the producer of a show might be even better. And she worked on developing the relationship with me, and now we're friends. But I would call her, like if I knew there was a fit for her, I would call her because she was so good about just creating the connection. And it really is about that. I hadn't met her in person, and eventually she had me speak at one of her events. And like I said, it became a friendship. But it started with her doing such great follow-up in developing the connection.